Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about bigmap. Well, not so much me as Todd and Ari. You guys are probably pretty familiar with them by now. So just to make sure that you guys can hear us okay, we want to give you guys a first warm welcome. I see quite a few of you are starting to pop in here, so thank you guys so much for joining us. To confirm that you can hear us okay, we've put up this audio slide. So just make sure that you choose either the computer audio or phone call option. And if you can let us know where you're joining us from. I am in Lakewood, Colorado, so we kind of have more sun today than we did yesterday. It was kind of overcast and cloudy. What's the weather like where you guys are? A few of you guys have been here before, so you're used to this. We have Andy joining us from San Francisco, Gina from Boston, Paul from Washington, Jen from Cape Cod, Richmond, Virginia, Pittsburgh, LA, cold Pennsylvania. It's cold for you in Florida, Angela? We have quite a few of you here joining us all over. If it's cold there, I don't think you want to be here.
You have to be careful. Although I did see there was snow in Atlanta, but cold now. I think it's like 20 degrees here, so it's chilly.
Cold and rainy and miserable in Dallas. So
nice.
Yeah. Maybe it's just
a thing. You're in Hawaii. I think you're where I want to be right now. That sounds beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I don't want to take too much time for this introduction, but I'm going to pass this over to Todd and Ari, and we'll get started with you guys.
Awesome. Todd, if you can make me the presenter.
I think you can just share.
Okay. Great.
Maybe. Nope, Callie, you may have to make Ari the presenter, unless you already are, Ari.
Yeah, I made him the presenter.
Is that working? Okay.
All right, cool.
Want to say hi, everybody. We've been talking about bigmap a few different times, which has been exciting. We got to talk about it at GHTA. We had a great story in Gift and Deck. We presented it at our Evolved conference. This is the first time we want to gear this one specifically towards suppliers. We have a lot of great agency folk on the call today, principals and a few reps. But today we really wanted to focus on the suppliers. So if you've seen some of this before, a little bit of it might be repetitive in terms of showing you how the functionality works and talking about it. But then we really want to focus on your questions as we kind of embark on this exciting adventure. Is my screen up?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this tagline, bigmap, unique B2B marketplace providing retailers with seamless access to local knowledgeable salespeople, is a. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a second so I can get the full bit there. So this is really the core of a big piece that differentiates bigmap from, let's just say, other alternatives that are out there. We believe in the value of the salesperson, not just because we like them, not just because we worked with them, but also because of the numbers. There's a great article that we put out in Gift and Deck that we looked at about $4 billion worth of data, and there's no question that when you work with a salesperson, internal or external salesperson, a trained salesperson knows that territory, the result for the retailer is better. That is the kind of the core of where all of this is. We have great technology, we have great size, which we'll get into, but this tagline really sums up what it is that we're going for. So here's me and Todd on sunnier days. So what's going on in the marketplace? What's going on out in the world? The first thing that has become extraordinarily clear is that retailers want to look for new product on a global marketplace. They're trained by basically being consumers on Amazon. When they want to look for something new, they want to go to one place where they can find it. While they frequent and they work with and they understand the brands, the identity of an agency, they understand the identity of a trade show, they understand the identity of a specific supplier that they've worked with, they want to go one place where they can look for everything. And that's where they want to start their search. They might start it just in Google. They might actually start a wholesale search in Amazon, but that's how they've been trained. In that way, when they go there, it's one-stop shopping. They can find everything that they want. They can look for everything they want, and as we know, they're performing transactions there. This fact that this is how they've been trained, really, it's important for everyone in our industry to look at this as a sea change. Traditionally, we had trained our buyers to work with catalogs, to work with salespeople, to go to trade shows, and other tools. These are tools of how buyers worked. First, it was about access. They didn't even know about the product 30 years ago, right? Before the internet. So they'd have to go to a trade show, or they'd wait for the salesperson to come to them. And there was the catalog, the mailing of the catalog. These are all things that we trained buyers to use, and they use them. But technology, Amazon, and other tools have changed all that. What we also know right now that's happening is that there are serious impediments to trade shows for the whatever percentage, and it varies depending on who you talk to. But let's say 25, 30, 35% of the buyers who were, who've traditionally been going to trade shows to look for new product. This year, that cycle has been severely interrupted. And so that ability, while it was already, a challenge to get them there, now this year, obviously, there's a huge obstacle has been presented, and they're finding a way. How are they finding a way? They're going to these resources that they know. But what's happened? Are those new tools working? Well, B2B online marketplaces it's been attempted for a while. It's not a new phenomenon. It's just only caught on now. And what has happened? What's happened is, and as suppliers on this call, you'll know, many of you are getting lots of new leads from these marketplaces. So it is working. They're finding new accounts, and accounts in places, rural areas, inner city areas, places where sales reps didn't traditionally have, a huge amount of traction. However, those marketplaces are far from perfect. What we know from the statistics that we've looked at, and that we've been able to reverse engineer, there's a huge number of one and done sales. We've heard this from suppliers. We've heard this from retailers. They'll write an order once, and we believe that the reorder rate through those marketplaces is somewhere between 25 and 30% overall, where with a rep, with an order that's written with a salesperson, it's closer to 70 to 80%. The other part we know is that the actual order size, the opening order size and the reorder size is much smaller. Now, there are a lot of factors that can contribute to that, but one of them we know is that when an order is written with a salesperson, there's more confidence, there's more experience, there's more engagement, there's more buy-in, and the average order size is dramatically higher. The low reorder rates, what's the real harm? Well, obviously, the cost of acquisition of a customer, but for me as a sales manager, when I worked, if I saw an order that wasn't a good order, especially if it was a new customer, I didn't want to ship it. If I saw that this order wasn't going to work for them, I would have rather had no order than had a bad quality order. Why? Because I'm not going to get a second chance with that retailer if they don't buy the right product. And that low reorder rate also means that they didn't sell the product. And every dollar is precious, and now more than ever. So what's been missing from all this activity has been the salespeople. So in trying to come up with an answer, and this is not a recent phenomenon, this has been worked on for years now, Brandwise looked at what were the resources that were available. Well, there's product. That's the product that comes from all of you. 15 million SKUs across 3,000-4,000 different suppliers. There's a huge amount of content. We have the talent of the agencies and the salespeople. We have the Brandwise infrastructure, which is the 2.0 infrastructure, which you might have been hearing about throughout this year. We have the size, 4,500 sales reps, 290,000 retailers. I'll put my camera back on for a minute. The size of this is of the Brandwise ecosystem is a real fundamental piece to why we know bigmap why we know that this initiative is going to be a success. The critical mass for a retailer to go and find all of these brands. The amount of power that 4,500 sales reps that use our software every day, in terms of them being part of this and interacting with this, is so powerful. Lise Willis, the editor-in-chief of Gift and Deck, when I was telling her about bigmap, she stopped me mid-sentence, and she said, "So you're telling me that when a retailer places an order through bigmap, that order is going to go to a salesperson and the retailer has the opportunity to work with the salesperson?" I said, yes. She said, this is of huge value to our customers. We're going to do a big blast. We're going to do a live interview, things they'd never done before, because she believed that their readers, their retailers, that this is a huge value and a huge differentiator for them. Obviously, the well-seasoned professionals, not just the agencies, but all of you and the retailers. So all of this experience is something that simply a machine-driven system doesn't necessarily count on. And then there's trust. So why do we put trust on here? Well, Brandwise has been handling over $2 billion worth of sales for years, every year. And that data has only been used for the purposes of what it's designed for. Some other entities out there that have obviously competing interests, whether it's venture capital, 300, $400 billion behind them, or it's in some way connected to another reality. With Brandwise has always been trusted, going to continue to be trusted, and our goal is to help you do what you need to do. We don't have, there's not a secondary objective. So in creating a marketplace, what are the requirements that we've put on it? The first one is we must meet the supplier's expectation. This is where we start from isn't let's do something and then hope that it works out. I was brought on board with Brandwise for a number of reasons, but one of them is that just like Todd and Janetta, I speak supplier, and Ron, I speak supplier. I understand what suppliers need, and with the team that's there, that's our guiding principle. Not let's make something that does something and then try to convince everyone that this is good for them. So what expectations? The high quality orders that involve a salesperson. If you're on this call, it's because you use salespeople, internal salespeople, external salespeople, your customer service people, independent reps. You use salespeople. You use salespeople because you know that it gets you a better result. Lead generation. We can't put something out there that isn't going to give a viable alternative to these other disruptive entities. To these others that are having success. We've got to be able to generate the leads. So the first requirement is meeting the supplier's expectations. The second one is replicate the success. So the discoverability needs to have all the bells and whistles and all the features. It has to provide that one-stop shopping experience. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we're avoiding the pitfalls of the competition. What didn't go right? Well, first of all, there aren't competing interests which have to be worked around. No additional fees for first-time customers, no connections to other contracts. There's really an agnostic relationship with the sales data. Higher quality orders, because we know that they have low reorder rates and they have low order size. And then this is where it gets, now we get more into the weeds. We need to be able to define territories. You need to be able to, as a sales manager, say, Sally is my rep for Ohio. Sally is my rep for Northeastern Ohio. These are the zip codes for Sally. You need to be able to define that so that the orders, which we'll show you how that works, end up getting to the right salesperson. Full integration with salespeople, which we'll show you how that works. And then a sustainable model. And the sustainable model is going to be key to all this and in terms of how the numbers work out.
And Ari, I want to speak. If you can go back up one more time.
Sure.
Go back to the screen, and then I'll take over.
Yep.
On the ability to define territories and the integration with the salespeople, I just want to clarify that at the supplier level, you're defining the overall territory. So if you have an independent sales rep in a territory, you'll define that. If you have an agency in a territory, you will just define your region that agency sells in. And if it's a Brandwise agency, then the Brandwise agency territories will send it to the appropriate rep.
Yeah.
We'll also speak in the next few slides about how this will affect non-Brandwise agencies. But just that level of clarification.
Okay, Todd, you're up.
All right, give me 1 sec while I grab the screen. I want to make me the presenter.
And put your camera back on so they can see you.
I'll do that. You guys can watch me struggle through sharing my screen. Let me actually start this guy up. For all of the housewares folks on the call, there will be a quiz later to name all of the stuff that is in the background of Ari's kitchen.
Well, I do my best thinking in the kitchen, so I just figured if the kitchen moves out here, it's my office. It works well.
Makes sense. All right. So to all of those questions, what's the answer? I think we've already given this away, but the answer is bigmap, and we're going to go through why bigmap is the answer. So in looking at the features of bigmap, As Ari mentioned earlier, it's a fully featured marketplace to meet buyers where they are, which we know is online. We know it's where they can discover products. They can take the place of what they've been doing at physical markets. And even when physical markets get back to whatever the new normal is going to be, and you're hearing it from the retail sector as well as I believe the wholesale sector, this is still going to be a significant part of the way they do business in the future. Single sign-on for retailers through Passport. So many of you now that are receiving orders through agency websites or association websites may or may not start to hear from retailers that this is convenient. They create a passport. They can use that passport to request connection to any of these sites, including bigmap. So we wanted to make it very simple for a retailer to control their profile, but also be able to connect to these different areas. Automated transparency and delivery of orders by territory. And I'm going to go into more depth, and this is what Ari put at the end of that last piece. But that automated transparency and delivery means that it's not up to you guys as a suppliers to say, oh, I got an order from bigmap. Who's my rep? Let me email it to them after the fact. We want as much as possible to have those orders delivered automatically through the system, which we handle already, to a territory sales rep that understands your line that can work with that retailer. Product data and content that's shared in Play and Reach. So Reach and bigmap are the same infrastructure. But when we talk about Play and Reach, Reach would be an agency site or a supplier site versus an association site like bigmap, or bigmap or an association site. But the key is simplifying the number of times that you have to load data. So we've heard from a number of suppliers that we've been talking to over the last 6 to 8 months, you know, we're testing this and we're trying this and we're trying that, which means we've got to load data here and load data here and load data there. And we're getting an order here and 2 orders here and 5 orders here. We want to make it simplify it down so that you can get that discoverability on a global marketplace, as well as your own sites, as well as your Reach, your Play system and your agency Play systems through a single data feed. So that's where all this is heading.
And what that means in practice is that you're loading your data in transit, content management. Where can that data go? Let's say you have Brandwise agencies all across the country, which we hope you do. That means that that data is going into their Play system. The reps are using it on their iPad. It's going into every single one of those agencies' Reach site, their B2B site. Let's say you're a member of the Museum Store Association and the Greeting Card Association. Well, the data is flowing in there, and it's going to flow into bigmap. And if you're a member of the Canadian Gift Association, the data is going to go there too. So what this really means is that single data load, and we're signing associations, and we're still working away. All of that one upload of data, all of it is going to that's going to populate all of those entities that I just listed.
Yep. And also for those of you, for the suppliers that are on the phone, which I think there's a few of you that are providing data to us on a nightly basis through your gateway feed, we're in the process of taking that data to populate Reach and bigmap and the association sites as well, so that you don't have to do that twice. So simplifying that as well, which is meaningful to those of you that know what I'm talking about. And then orders delivered to suppliers via Stream. So whether you're on Streamlight or you're on full Stream, these orders are going to come through the exact same way. So the idea is that you're pushing data through one portal and you're receiving all of your orders through another. Low transaction fees. One of the things that Brandwise has always done is we've tried to get a little of a lot versus a lot of a little. Normally that works very well. And when we're looking at what we're talking about with bigmap, we don't want to say, well, we're going to charge all of the commission or we're going to charge in excess of the commission, because we need to leave room for the sales process. And if we don't do that, if we say we're going to take what you guys would normally pay commissions to a sales rep or an agency, we're not leaving any room in the transaction for them to do anything. So our transaction fees are low for a purpose, and they're consistent across the board. So if you look at a comparison between bigmap and other outside global marketplaces, the first scenario says that orders placed on external B2B platform, so one that's just out there, that does not have the salesperson involvement, and saying that the salesperson becomes involved after the order's placed doesn't drive the sale up. It still has that lower dollar amount, lower reorder. On average, in orders somewhere in the neighborhood of $300. So, you know, that's okay, but it may not be great. The reorder rate of less than 30% is really the biggest issue, because to Ari's point before, I went on, I tried it, I couldn't sell it, I didn't reorder it. You pretty much lose that customer versus having a salesperson involved. No visibility to the salesperson or agency. Now, that doesn't mean that as a supplier, you're going to get an order from one of these sites and send it to your agency so that they can distribute it to the sales rep. But it means that transparent visibility is not existing with these other platforms. Scenario 2 is big.
Todd, we left off one piece on scenario 1, which I know we'd want to put up there, but everyone knows it. Those external marketplaces charge a fortune. So you all know what percentage they charge you for a new customer, for an existing customer. But keep in mind that that's the starting point.
Yeah, and I think if you think about that and say, okay, I got a brand new customer, I paid a significant commission and I didn't get a reorder, versus, you know, I placed an order on our system at a lower rate and you hopefully get the reorder and you're still paying less. So all of that stuff plays into this. So orders placed on bigmap, salesperson involvement, yes. Now, many of you have, hopefully you have only Brandwise sales reps and agencies, which I know is not the case. But when we say salesperson involvement, the interactive, transparent salesperson involvement is Brandwise empowered sales reps. But we'll also show you how we're automating the process of getting the orders to non-Brandwise sales reps as well. Typical opening order size on average is about $475, so significantly higher than the order size on the outside B2B platforms. And the key fact here is a reorder rate over 70%. We looked at those numbers on a 3-year period, and we shared a bunch of that in numerous webinars and articles that we've done that show that, you know, over that 3-year period, we see a significantly higher reorder rate. And the reason for that, very distinctly, is they're comfortable with the brand. They work with a salesperson that can help them. They've maneuvered their way through it already. And salesperson agency visibility is a big yes. So all of that stuff ties into a better order, more frequent reorders, a happier retailer client. So how does bigmap work? So right now we have in the neighborhood of about 3,800 suppliers.
Hey,
they
Todd,
push their data. Yes, what's that?
Just to interrupt, I think it's later on, but we keep talking about the low transaction fee. It's 3%, just in case, because I know we're going to mention afterwards, but just so that you're putting it, you're understanding the context compared with the others, where this is it's 3%, and that's what it's going to be. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We do get to that later. That was going to be the piece that kept everybody hanging. Now that Ari threw it away, I see people are dropping off already.
Yeah, we didn't lose them before that.
Yeah, exactly. So those suppliers are pushing their data through transit, or for those of you that are pushing your data up through our gateway process, that will also get into the same process. Basically, data in images and SKUs going into transit, and from there into bigmap. At that point, you have retailers, 290,000 retailers that actively purchased in Brandwise in 2019. In 2020, will be about 289,000. Whatever the number is, it's still going to be a significant number, even with COVID. But those retailers get a passport, and that passport is their keys to the kingdom. So whether it's bigmap, or it's your reach site, or ultimately it's your play system, or it's an association site, they use that singular passport with that information to connect to them. So they go and they make a connection to bigmap. They'll be approved to get into bigmap, and then if you're on bigmap, your product becomes discoverable. They can search for it, they can look for different categories of product or different things like that, but if you're there, you're discoverable. If you're not there, you're not discoverable. Now at that point, here's where the real differentiation comes in for your Brandwise powered sales reps versus others. So for a Brandwise powered sales rep, in order to get taken on bigmap, you've gone into the editors we'll provide, and you've set up your regions where you have agency or salesperson representation. If you've done that, and an order gets taken on bigmap for a retailer in their territory, that order will get delivered to that sales rep if it's an independent, or that agency. And if it gets into an agency, the agency's territory logic will kick in and send it to the appropriate sales rep as a hold for confirmation order, meaning that that sales rep now can pull that order up on their computer or on their iPad, look at it, reach out to the retailer, introduce themselves. Hi, I'm an expert on the line that you purchased through bigmap. Wanted to chat with you about the order, pros and cons, what yada, 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 build a relationship and build a better order. When the rep is comfortable with that order, just like through your reach sites today, the rep confirms it. It then goes to stream, and from stream, it goes to the supplier. That's the circle. That's in the Brandwise environment. So that's, you get orders on bigmap, and you have a Brandwise sales agency or salespeople involved in the transaction. If you have a non-Brandwise agency, an order gets taken in bigmap, it gets confirmed in bigmap, and based on your territory setup there, because you'll also say we have agency A, which is a non-Brandwise agency, configured with this territory. that order will get emailed as a confirmed order to that agency. Then that agency can give it to their sales rep or do what they need to do with it. It's not seamless and interactive as Play if you're using Brandwise, but it's still automatically providing transparency of that order to the agency and that non-Brandwise agency and sales rep, so they can then reach out, even if it's after the fact, to that retailer, make sure they liked what they bought, help them sell it. Now, in the third scenario, if you don't have representation in a particular area, you know, the northeast corner of some remote area of Montana where there's not representation at all, that order from bigmap can come straight into Stream and straight to you. Now, if you have option B, those will happen simultaneously. So that order will go get emailed out to your rep agency or rep that doesn't use Brandwise, and at the same time that order will come through Stream and go to you. Important to note, whether it goes to a Brandwise company or it goes to a non-Brandwise company or it goes direct to you guys through Stream, it's the same fee. We're not dinging people because they're not on Brandwise. It's just a flat fee across the board. So that's the circle of life in bigmap. Yes,
I want to get to some of the questions in here because we have some good ones.
Sure.
Andy and Melanie both asked about the statistics that we put up there in terms of the reorder rate and the order size. So we took about a month to look through and really pour over about $6 billion worth of data, of sales data. We were able to look at orders that were first-time orders for customers, because within the Brandwise world, we can see when that is a new customer. We were able to look at orders that came straight through that did not have a salesperson involved. Plus, we interviewed dozens, I'd say dozens maybe, it's probably about 25 or 30 suppliers that were working with one of the largest B2B marketplaces that's out there, the Interloper, and we asked about reorder rates and we asked about average order sizes, and we were able to confirm those statistics again and again and again, that the reorder rate was low, that the order size. In some sectors, that 475 is actually a bit low. In some verticals, some categories, it was closer to $700 or $800 once we broke it out, but that's where those numbers come from. To answer your question, Debbie, about it seems like a lot of time is going to be lost between order and ship. So there is a time the idea is to give the rep an opportunity to work that order. And keep in mind that as a sales manager, you're going to have control over who you designate for each territory. And if a salesperson is doing their job, then they're going to do their job. If working on that in terms of, do they have to pick up the phone and call the customer? They might be able to do it by email. They might be able to do it in a lot of other ways that they can work back and forth. But there is a timer on it, which we're looking at either 2 or 3 business days, which if there hasn't been any activity on the order, then it'll automatically go through the supplier. We recognize that that's a question. We recognize that that's not, that a lot of suppliers have the question of, well, I just want the order directly. Well, getting the order directly is always going to be your option, meaning you can set yourselves as the salesperson for all of it and get into your customer service. We hope that this tool will be used properly. Our goal is to provide the tool, not enforce the tool. If you want your orders going directly to you, that's going to be your option. And in terms of the question that Joanne asked, what happens if the vendor's agency is a Brandwise agency but doesn't sign up for bigmap? That's not the way it works. It's not that the agency signs up for bigmap. You as a supplier will identify your territories. You identify this agency and this salesperson for Northwestern Ohio, then you are designating that order is going to go into their play system. So it's actually not something that they have to sign up for. You have the option to sign up for bigmap. That's also not required or automatic. And I'll just get to the last couple and then we'll continue on. If a customer is not in your agency system, well, the customer is going to have created a passport, which is going to be how they're in there. First of all, if they're not in the agency system, mazel tov, you have a new customer, which is what this whole thing is about, Michael. So that's the goal. In terms of that, this is the beauty of the order getting to the salesperson. That order isn't going to automatically, with using all of the tools that are provided, the salesperson is going to be able to look at that customer and say, we don't want to sell to them, they're across the street from an existing customer, or that's not the kind of store you want to sell it to. The normal vetting that a salesperson would be able to make, that's really what that's in place for. And Todd, why don't you let's pick up with the presentation. We'll pick up on the questions when we come back.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ari. All right, so what? Oh, this is back to you?
Yeah.
All right, take it back.
I'm gonna take it back. Okay, let's scroll real quick through here and get to, here we are. Okay, sharing my screen. Is it up? Is it there?
Yep, I think so. Nope.
Wait, nope.
Wrong screen. It's still my screen.
Still your screen. Well, you got to let it go.
I did.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me give it to you. All right. Yes. Okay. You're a presenter.
Okay. Is that working?
Yep.
Okay. So stakeholder benefits. Let's talk about suppliers. To begin with, there's no startup costs or any required subscription charges. You can be on it, you can be off it. There's no required time period. Ease of adoption, because if you're already on this call, chances are you're already putting data in and getting data from Brandwise. So basically with the acceptance of the agreement and a toggle of a switch, your data is going to flow into it. You can start getting orders. The low transaction fee, which obviously we've covered to a great extent, which we've covered, the discoverability of the global marketplace, the ease of access for the retailers. The retailers were already up way past 70,000. It's probably closer to 80 at this point. We project that certainly by the end of January we'll be up over 100, and then I think it's going to climb pretty quickly after that. But all of them that have a passport are going to be able to access this, and this is also something to keep in mind. Retailers are getting really, well, actually, we'll get to the retailer benefit when we get to this. Okay, modern shopping interface, which will show you all the different, all your business rules are applied here that you set up within the Brandwise ecosystem. And this is a kind of a nice key additional benefit. This is going to foster and encourage and create new opportunities for business between agencies and suppliers, both in terms of picking up new agencies and strengthening the relationship, because those new leads are going to be getting into the salespeople's hands for them to work with. Then we have retailer benefits. So discoverability, which we covered, this is really key. The retailers are already getting confused as to where they're placing orders. They'll say, I know I placed an order for it, but I don't remember. Did I place it on this? Did I place it on that? How did I get it? Where do I look? What did I see? How do I find it? There's a lot of fragmentation out there. What we know is these retailers are all using Brandwise. They don't know they are necessarily, but they're working with salespeople. We have 290,000 retailers that are buying something through Brandwise. So this dashboard, we know because of the size that we already are, this dashboard with all of their different online orders, plus all of the play orders, meaning all the orders that are taken with salespeople, the retailer is going to be able to see this dashboard in one place. We believe that this is going to be by far the largest critical mass, and this is going to be a place where they go to look, to see their history, to interact with their salespeople, to interact with their existing brands through their passport I'm talking about. And then when they want to find something new, they're going to go on bigmap. So we believe this is a huge benefit to the retailers and to everyone else in the ecosystem.
And one thing before you jump onto that, to kind of explain, you've got one of the things or a number of things that are on the roadmap for order history. For those of you that are on the line that are sending us data like invoice information or shipping status or back order information, orders on hold through our Vision product, the idea will be to take all of that type of data and make it more accessible for those of you that aren't sending it and provide it directly to the retailer through their history dashboard. So if you put an order on hold or there's items that are back ordered, or you shipped it and you want tracking information so the retailer can get it themselves, that's all going to become part and parcel to the order history. So the idea is giving them a dashboard where they can create orders and they can do all that type of stuff at once. Okay, back to you, Ari.
Okay, so, all right, next. So there's an opportunity for the retailer to work with the sales professional, which we know leads to higher quality orders, leads to larger orders, leads to more reorders. Some of the questions that are coming in and one of the conversations that we have is we're often said, so now this is going to cost us an extra 3%. Or they'll say, so now everyone is going to order there. If you look at the market right now as a set size, that's inaccurate. What we know is, we know that these other marketplaces have found new customers. There's more business out there. So when you look at it, if you look at it as, well, this is money that we're going to lose. It's not money they're going to lose. Between the size of the orders being larger and the reorder rate being much higher, the 3% that we're looking at here is going to be a distant memory in terms of the overall quality, value of the orders, the size. That's what we're looking at in terms of how this is constructed. So there's a lot of questions that are coming in right now that are asking questions like that.
Well, I want to answer one of those too. I mean, that's a good question about the 3%. Joanne asked a question or said that it seems like fair costs less because it's zero commission. You have to look at the long ball. So if you think about what fair is doing, and we haven't mentioned fair, we've kind of just talked about them hypothetically, but they're incentivized based on the way their business model is to take an order that comes in first time from a retailer for a new brand, because they get whatever the percentage is that they get. If that brand gives them all of their retailers, so they go, you know what, no commission for you for the first year. All you have to do is give me all of your intellectual property, which is your retailers. They're incentivized based on the way their structure is to direct that retailer to a line that they can get between 15 and 28% commission on.
And it's
just not natural to get.
It's just, well, it's also, I mean, when you press them and you ask them how they're going to make money, they say, well, because they're going to buy other products, right? They're going to find something new. They're going to get their percentage. That 0%, right now, we understand why everyone's doing it. It's getting you new customers. We get that. But at the end of the day, that 0% is costing you a lot more than 3%.
It is.
And in terms of the sales commission, that's between you and the salespeople. But what we know is that it's better quality orders, they're higher reorder rate, and in the long term, they're a company that's backed by hundreds of millions of dollars of venture capital money. The idea that they're doing anything for free isn't realistic. We know they're getting you new customers right now. It's not that you're doing a bad thing. Bigmap is meant to offer you an alternative that doesn't have that drawback. We want to help you get new customers at a much lower rate. We want to involve your salespeople in it, and we want to give you a more sustainable model because you get higher quality, higher value orders. That's what this model is about. It's a different model, and what we know is that this is also, and look, this is why we're having this call today. We know we're going to get these tough questions, and we really believe that we have the right answer. What FAIR has shown us is there's new customers out there. There's an ability to get them. There's no question, Joanne, that the new customer costs you 28%. And then that customer, when they reorder on that site, is going to cost you another 15%. That part is absolutely, that's the rules. And if you want to have a salesperson work that order and make it a better order, now you're paying twice. Right? If there's an internal person that's working it so you can get better reorders, you can get that, now you're paying that twice. So when you lay out the overall value of it and you compare it to 3%, we think it's a good business decision. Okay, let's get back into the presentation. We'll get to more questions at the end. So, okay, am I up? I'm up. Okay, agency salesperson benefits. So there's salespeople are part of the process. There's the fully automated transparency with the Brandwise reps. There's new generations, not just for that line, but also for additional lines, strengthens that relationship, which has been strained right now between agencies and suppliers. FAIR's getting new customers, and customers are going to order there because they're not necessarily seeing salespeople in person. They're not necessarily going to trade shows, so we know that. This we believe is going to make a big difference in that. Okay, Todd, back to you.
Okay.
And don't worry, we're going to get to all your questions. They're good questions.
All right.
Andy, one thing about when you're saying about Andy asked, he said, but this data isn't coming from real life scenarios and this platform isn't even live. Well, everything has a moment before it's live, and it's going to be live soon. What we're talking about is Brandwise operates over 120 agency reach sites and many supplier sites. So the data that we're pulling it from, Andy, is data that's based on those any orders that happen directly, in addition to the anecdotal information that we've gotten from others. So our data is actually quite accurate. We know when a rep has stepped in and worked on an order that started online, and that's the reorder rates and the order sizes that we have. So it is quite accurate.
Yep. Hopefully everybody's listening to Ari, not paying attention to me go through 90 screens. The other piece that, and just to answer a quick question that Melanie talked about, you know, with regards to the way that a rep works now, most sales reps offer more than one line. So they go meet with a retailer, they sell your line, and they sell another line and another line. Now, if they're company reps, they're going to sell just your line. So if it's a company rep on bigmap, it's going to go to them and they're going to sell the line. They're not going to get credit for something that they don't represent that comes through bigmap. The question that Melanie was asking was, what, you know, is it any different for somebody to say, I'm getting only 3%, or I'm getting a commission, my commission from an order coming on Fair, and they're not going to recommend on bigmap, excuse me, that they wouldn't recommend them to go buy other product on bigmap the same as Fair. No, there's not. I mean, they're gonna go look at other product that's on bigmap. The difference is the fee is consistent. Fair's, just the way that their structure is built is built on driving people to go to things that get them more money. Brandwise is 3% across the board. So there's not, the incentive is in a different mix from that perspective.
And Todd, before you pick up on this, I want to answer a few more. To answer your question, Andy, Brandwise isn't vetting customers. That's the job of the supplier and the salesperson, as it always has been. So the idea that anyone is putting the faith in someone else to vet the customers for them, we all know that that's a flaming disaster. That does not work because they lie, they do this, they say there's someone else. The vetting that you do right now, or that a supplier does or a salesperson does, that still has to continue. You get an order, you check it. That work is something that goes on. For that, then there's another question here. I just want to get to a couple more. Bigmap will be organized by category. There's any and all features that you're seeing on any of the other marketplaces are all on our roadmap. Another point to make is this is not theoretical. We have association sites up. Museum Store Association site is up. It is running. It is working. It is generating orders. So it's not something that's that aspirational. The only part that isn't there yet is the salesperson part. And one more question I wanted to answer. Michael, your question about commissions. You asked the question is this 3% plus 15%, and who's going to eat that and so on? Brandwise is not wading into that. We don't tell anyone what to charge for a commission. Some people charge 4, some people get 40. So we don't have anything we're not going to weigh in on that. And we're not, and Michael asked, you know, are we going to encourage either the agency or the supplier? We've heard both sides. We've heard suppliers say, we're going to eat the 3% because, you know, we believe in our salespeople. We think they're going to make a bigger order. We've heard agency principals that have said, we're going to eat the 3% because our job for the rep is to take that order and to, you know, in the future, not leave it on bigmap, but work it through Play directly. And so we're going to do that, or we're going to ding the rep, or we've heard all of it. Our goal is to leave it low enough that there's space for the sales function, whatever the standard commission may be, and then after that, we're going to leave that up to everyone to make their own decisions.
Yep.
Do you want to?
Okay. I'm going to move on, and then we'll get to the other
rest.
Okay. So just to give you a quick view of it. So beautiful on any device. So for those of you that are on Reach now, their old version of Reach, it's not responsive. So we built this to be fully responsive. So whether you're on a big screen or a giant screen or a projector, or you're on a mobile phone as a retailer, it looks great. So gallery of brands. So there was a question about categorization. Right now we're rolling out as part of this the ability for a brand to categorize. Then we'll have a hierarchy that allows brands to be in categories. But the search routine that we have beyond here is intelligent elastic search. So the type of search we use is called elastic search, and it learns as product gets searched. It allows for scoring based on when you type certain things in. So if it finds a word in it like kids, it moves it to the top. If it finds KID lower down, it moves it down. So it gives you that ability to search and scores it appropriately. Also within a brand, once you get into a brand, so you know that you want to shop New York Puzzle Company, you can search within that specific brand, and it's just going to bring you product within that. So you'll be able to search categories, you'll be able to search hierarchy of groupings. specifically across all brands, that's that big discoverability. I'm looking for blah, here's all the companies that sell it. So then you can pick and choose from that, or you know which specific company you want to go into. Intuitive checkout across brands. So I've got an Ets collection. I could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 different companies that I've selected product for. Each of those companies, based on business rules, is going to have their minimum order levels, their shipping methods, their payment methods, their business rules that have to be met. And once they're met, the retailer can submit the order. They submit that order and either goes to a sales rep, depending on how you've set it up, or it goes straight to your stream as a confirmed order. Product detail, all of this area on the right side that's in white is available for extended description, information, description, all of the benefits about what your product is, that type of stuff, and the ability to zoom in to get more specific into what the image looks like. Right now, the majority, if you have a couple of companies that give us 2000 by 2000 DPI images, the standard is 500 by 500, but we'll be changing that to allow you guys to give us bigger images, so when you zoom in, it gives you real spectacular detail. Still looks really good on the devices, even at that level. And then the order history that we talked about. So order history is across device. So if they've taken it on the website or they've taken it on an iPad for bigmap, and if you can extend it out for somebody that doesn't have a device on the road, if they wanted a device extended from the bigmap site, they could do that. Those orders would show up in here as well for that retailer. In the retailer's dashboard, they'll have access to the rest of their sales history, but in here it's bigmap. If it's on your reach site, it's your reach history. If it's on an association, it's the association history, but it's their same login. They can go back in order history easily 30, 60, 90 days or 2 years if they have history that far back, and then they can drill into the detail. The detail includes this rep information. So if it's an agency rep, it's going to have the agency, it's going to have the sales rep, and it's going to have the sales rep contact information for the retailer on the order. So it's going to be very intuitive to that level. Once it gets through to the rep, we then know, okay, it's this agency. Once it gets to the agency, we know which rep it is. Even if it's not a Brandwise agency, we'll still know the agency because of what you set up in your territory setup. So we won't be able to go to the rep level, but we'll be able to tell that retailer, oh, it's represented by this agency. So all of that information is included in it, and it's very beneficial from that perspective. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to tear through some of these questions.
Yep.
Here we go. Randy Spore, do we supply bigmap with the same files we have supplied to other platforms? Other platforms outside of Brandwise, no, but anything that's within Brandwise, it all goes through transit, which also will answer your question, Debbie, about where do you put in that information. The transit file has a lot of fields. There's 6 required fields. This is our DIM. Where you're putting in your data. All of that data can be populated there. So all of it is through transit, but it's all through the file that you're uploading into transit. That's where you put all of that information. Melanie asked a question, if there's only 3% on the first order. No, the 3% is on all orders that start on bigmap. There's not a differentiation between them. Salespeople, the idea is that a salesperson, we want a salesperson to successfully work with this customer directly. If they don't and the order goes through that, it's 3%.
Right, but a key factor for that is if that order comes through, the first order comes through bigmap and the sales rep gets it, and then the sales rep works on the next 10 orders outside of bigmap, that 3% doesn't apply to any orders that originate with that sales rep, which we know all of that based on where the order origination is.
Right. So
that does not get charged the fee. Only stuff that comes through bigmap does.
So how retailers will access your bigmap page. So as long as a retailer has a passport, you can attach a URL. You can grab the URL either from your brand or from a specific SKU, and you can include that on anything you want. And with their passport, they'll go directly there. Kind of like being logged in with Facebook or being logged in with Google. It'll take them directly there. Kaylee, that's for you. Neil, you asked, I'm unclear how a supplier might get more sales reps through bigmap. Bigmap is going to give you, let's say, Neil, I don't know let's say you have a new line and you don't have any business in the Northwest yet. Well, you go on Bigmap and you start picking up some customers. Now, a few things happen. We've already seen this happen. I put together a supplier and agency recently, and I went through telling them all about the line. It's just for a friend, I did a favor. And then I said, and by the way, they're fully integrated with Passport and Transit because they're already providing data for one of our association marketplaces. And the agency said, oh, well, that's easy. Now I can, there's no lift for them, right? They don't have to load data in. All they have to do basically now is to turn on that supplier. So not only will it be easier, but you also have the opportunity to generate accounts in that area. And you can show them, the actual work, the ongoing customers that are ready for them to pick up.
Yep, I want to go back to a question that you answered already, but it was Callie or Kaylee regarding how retailers access the Big Map page. So you spoke to that for a sec. But what you can do is from your brand, you'll be able to go into any of the reach sites or association sites or Big Map that you're associated with as a supplier or a brand, and log into that site and view only. And you'll view just your brand, and you'll see all your products. So you can see how they look. At the top in the URL, you'll have the URL with your brand name at the end. You can copy that out for your brand, put it into any of your marketing, your social media, any of that. When a retailer clicks on that and logs into Big Map, they'll go straight to your brand.
Yeah.
So they'll bypass everything else and they'll end up on your brand.
Or if you grab the URL from an agency site, it's the same. If they're already accepted by that agency, they'd go straight in. Otherwise, the screen would come up, request to connect. There's a logic here that works quite well.
That helps drive into that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so Andy Tonkin has asked, imagine a scenario in which a supplier has increased their costs on fare, I guess their prices, to offset the high commissions. The same supplier does not have the ability to do that on Big Map without affecting their sales rep data in play, etc. While I understand 3% is lower than fair's commission, we don't have the ability to offset this additional fee. Yeah, Andy, I still think that you're looking at this as a defined pie. I think that you're looking at all of this as building down as opposed to what the opportunity is to build up. There's value added with your salespeople working with this. We know that, and you probably believe that too if you're on this call. So I think that looking at it as a deduction, I think is not the way to go about it. I believe it's much more about the investment. Investing the 3% so that a salesperson is involved. If you take that $300 order and they add $100 to it, you already covered your 3%.
Right. Let me take a couple. I'll take a softball from Scott. Bryson, yes, there'll be a recorded version of this available. Linda, so the, let's see, retailer companies. So yes, when somebody comes in to buy and they put something in like baby toys and they get 3 or 4 different lines and they select one from each. For each of those lines, just like it is today, they need to meet the minimum for each line. So if your line is $200 and the next one's $200, the next one's $200, and they want to fulfill all 3 orders, they need to spend $600, just the way it is today. So they have to meet it for each brand, not across the brands.
I saw one here from Carmen, which I wanted to answer.
Yep.
Where did it go? I lost it. Hold on.
I'll answer Melanie. Yes, on promotions. We're building into it a promotions code right now, which is what we have on our current reach sites. And then further down on the roadmap will be the ability for more actionable promotions that are driven by data like we do in Play. But for now, what we're going to build in is the ability for you to give a code out, send an email campaign, ask them to put this promotion code in. That's shorter on the roadmap than the interactive promotions, but they'll both ultimately be there. That one will be there sooner than later.
So Carmen asked, sounds like as a supplier, we would need to opt in, sign up to be on the Big Map site. Is this correct? Yes. We're going to be putting up basically a marketplace agreement, which if you're interested, you will sign, and then you'll be basically choosing the marketplaces you want to be in, or if it's part of an association, that's up to them. But yes, you would sign an agreement and you would decide. We're not automatically putting anybody up. This is up to each supplier.
Marvin asked a question about retailers signing up for Big Map. Will the agency have to map the customer prior to receiving the order through Brandwise? That's a great question, Marvin. And we're looking at auto mapping in certain ways when we know that their 2.0 ID that they have coming in through Big Map matches the 2.0 ID on your end, and we'll just pass them straight through. So if it's a brand new customer coming into you, then yeah, you'll map them because you'll want to know, you'll go through the same process. But anybody that's already mapped in your system or already has a passport mapped in the system, in your system, will go straight through.
Charlie, to answer your question, how is the 3% paid? Right now we're looking at quarterly. That might change to monthly, and for another question someone asked, it is based on the order. It's not based on what shipped. It's not based on what's paid. Now, there's a lot of alarm bells that go off. So what do you mean based on order? What if there's a back order? What if it's canceled? We looked at this in a lot of different ways. There is no practical way for us to get the data back to know what it is that's shipped. And our job is to present you with an order. If someone puts in an order for $5 trillion, you give us a call, we'll cancel it. Don't worry about that. But when you look at the overall math, if you have, first of all, the transit gives you the tools to be able to, take products down and quantity on hand and to do those, to try to keep it closer to what you have as to what you actually ship. We know that there's an incident of orders that don't ship. What we believe, what we know looking at it, we know what statistic of orders don't ship because we take in your orders and we look at a big group of data for companies that supply us with data of what actually ships. We also know orders that are canceled. So even if, let's just say that it was 20%, let's just say for a moment that 20% of the orders that you get through bigmap actually don't ship. That would increase your overall rate from 3 to 3.6%. It's just, it's keeping in mind, look at it as the overall picture, not on one specific order. Yes, you're going to lose something on that specific order, but on the overall service, it's still going to be quite reasonably priced. And when you also consider the fact that the orders are going to be able to be larger, that the salespeople are now going to pick up new customers, they're going to have a higher reorder rates, we believe that that's a small price to pay for the overall value.
Yep. A couple others. So Callie asked also, will there be a separate webinar for retailers? Yeah, we'll start having a bunch of them as we get closer to launch. To answer,
Randy asked when it's launching.
When's the launch? Yep. Go ahead and say it. Tell them when we're thinking, Ari, just so I don't get in trouble.
Mid-February.
Yep. All right.
So we want the for a number of reasons. We know that a lot of the agencies and the shows, there's going to be a lot that's happening, a lot of attention and a lot of focus from the retailers is going to be on communications coming from the agencies and the suppliers. And to be perfectly frank, we don't have any interest in competing with that in the very busiest for our launch. Yep. And that it's a serious consideration. So middle of February, February 15th, day after Valentine's Day. There we go.
Yep. So I'll get the next couple of them. So yes, Rose just asked about categories. Categories is being built into transit as we speak. So that'll be out in the next day or two, or not day or two, week or two. Good Lord. So that you guys will be able to upload through transit your categories as well. Caitlin, you have a couple of questions I wanted to answer. The way that we know whether it's reach, play, or bigmap is where the origination is. So there's a system ID associated with all of those. So we know that it came through bigmap versus an agency or versus a supplier. And yes, you'll get a detailed statement that shows all of the different orders that came through bigmap so that you can audit that.
Let's see, we had some other questions. Answered this one. Melissa asked if we are acting as a payment processor, financier, intermediary like Fair and paying suppliers separately. No, that part of what Brandwise is doing isn't changing. We do have some very, very, very elegant new credit card process, which we'll be having webinars about. I don't want to jump into the deep end there because I'll say the wrong words, but it's secure, it's elegant, and yes, it works through bigmap. And to Debbie's point about someone chasing down credit cards, that'll be what that is. But the retailers are going to be able to control a lot more of that at the origin, and so it's actually going to be much more streamlined.
Yep.
But we're not doing that financing part. And I just want to point out to everyone about the financing part with those sites that are doing that. If you read the fine print, you'll find that after 60 days, after the 60 days and then a 60-day grace period, if the retailer doesn't pay, it's either 18.9 or 22.9% interest that Fair is charging those retailers. They have identified themselves as a finance company. So right now, all of these things are going on, but at a certain moment in time, those retailers are going to look at you and they're going to say, I had to pay finance charges because I was late. Now you might say, oh, well, if it was on your credit card, it would be the same, but they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're earning money on those terms.
And to be, yeah, and when we did the Fundbox integration, which was driven by the industry, which made sense, it was the same thing. I mean, Fundbox offered terms, but if a retailer didn't pay, Fundbox chased them down and there was an interest rate. And where Ari says we're not doing that, that doesn't mean that we're not going to ever do that.
Sure.
We are open to the opportunities, and once we get, the sites up and we have the resources to bandwidth to look at other opportunities for third parties that can offer financing. So it's not off the table. If you guys have ideas about companies that I got one today, as a matter of fact, from another company that said somebody reached out to me, send them our way. I mean, we're definitely going to look into those options down the road. We even spoke to somebody this morning that asked the question, are you going to take returns? And we said, no, Brandwise isn't. But if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we'd like to take returns off of your BigMap website, and we have a service for that, we're not closed-minded to those things.
Yeah.
But it's not our business model, but there's other people that may be able to offer that.
Cindy Persing pointed out about our 3%, that one way to look at that can be like a catalog cost or a show fee or an advertising cost, that instead of looking at it as a ding on the commission, instead look at it as part of the cost of being in this marketplace, which you would have anywhere you would go, whether it's a trade show or anywhere else. But the beauty here is a trade show, you pay for a booth and you hope people come by. This fee is only attached to an actual transaction that happened.
Yep. I want to answer two real quick. So Carmen asked if once you're on BigMap, can you remove yourself? Yeah, they'll be in your passport. You'll actually end up with just a checkbox, and you can just remove yourself from it if you want to. Take your product down. Scott Bryson asked a question regarding the communication back and forth. That's a really interesting question on BigMap or through Passport. We actually just started looking at a chat widget that just became available for the platform that we're on.
Yeah.
And we're looking at whether we'll put that directly into BigMap or into Reach and or Passport, but it looks like that having that widget now built into our platform will make it easier to allow that chat. So that's definitely on the roadmap, Scott.
Melanie asked the question. Part of the reasoning for using a sales rep is because it allows the rep to consult with the store and offer them additional lines that the group carries. How is this different from FAIR offering additional products to increase their commission? Okay, in a myriad of ways. The first thing is that a sales rep does a lot of things other than just offer other lines. A sales rep says no, meaning somebody says, I want 48 medium black. And they say, well, no, you don't want that. You want a variety of sizes, you want different colors. A salesperson knows if the store is by the sea, if it's in the mountains, what's selling across the street, what else is in the store, what's the state bird, what are the colors of the local football team? Do you drive up to the store? Is it something that you have to walk by? The salesperson has a vested interest in that store doing well, and what they have as an algorithm absolutely trumps what the very linear algorithm that a machine learning can do, which simply says, if I like this shirt, I'm going to like these pants. While some of that helps, and we're going to have those suggestions also, what a salesperson does, we believe, Melanie, in my experience working with sales reps, is much more. So, and it makes for better reorders. So I think there's a lot of differentiation there.
All right, I want to tackle two, and then we'll see if we've got any more. Randy wants to know where the name came from. Ari was at the drive-thru at McDonald's, and inspiration hit him.
Not true. BGMP, Brandwise Global Marketplace. BGMP, Brandwise Global Marketplace. I don't go to McDonald's.
Thank you for clarifying. Had nothing to do with McDonald's. Melanie, I want to kind of answer your question about the perks that FAIR can offer, kind of in a general statement. Brandwise was started by Janetta and I back in 1997, and we continue to own and operate it today. We don't have any outside financing. So if somebody was to come to us and give us $400 or $500 million and say, hey, we want to buy as many retailers and as many customers and as much credit as we can for our venture capitalists that have given us this money so that they can take that 500 million, turn it into 300 billion, then we will also be able to offer all the perks. So it kind of boils down to, we talked about before, using what we have as our resources, which is our technology and our base and our trust and our working with all of you guys for so long to give you what you need to move the business forward. And that means that there's certain things that we just don't have the wherewithal or the means to offer, and that's why we don't offer them. But if we can find third parties that we can plug in that have, the means and the wherewithal to do that type of stuff, that's where we can play in that game a little bit better. And Rose, yes, all of the data that you enter for reach is the same data that if you opt into bigmap will be used for bigmap.
Yeah, and Rose also asked about payment terms. You're going to be able to, as a supplier, define your own payment terms of what's available. And if a customer puts one in that they're not eligible for, well, that won't be the first time that someone tries to do that. So you'll be able to set what your parameters are.
Yep. All right. We're 6 minutes over. That was the most questions I've ever seen on a webinar.
Well, we had an hour and a half of questions. So
that's true.
We did 90 minutes of questions before.
All right.
I want to stay on until we don't have any more left.
So Marvin asked a question about banner ads available to agencies and vendors to participate in. That's a remarkably interesting question that we continue to talk about. We want bigmap to be a fair playing field, not fair, a even playing field. So it becomes difficult if we offer up the opportunities for advertising on the fair side. So what we're open to discussions there, but if I don't think we'll come to a term that says, yeah, the bigger companies can come in and buy space to get their product raised up. However, keep in mind that you can use your own marketing and banner ads with click-through to your brand or the brands you represent on the site so that the retailers are directed straight there. So instead of, bigmap being something that can be bought and paid for by the larger companies, if we keep the playing field even, then you guys can do your own marketing that can drive them where you want within the site. So that's kind of where our heads are at on that. But that's something we'll continue to dialogue for sure with you guys.
To answer David's question, yes, suppliers will be able to put incentives, bells and whistles of that and features of that for sure are going to be available. Whether it's a promo code or whether it's a button or whether it's there's a lot of different routes, and we're getting requests from different ways being being first. But yes.
Yeah, and yep. David brought up the question kind of disappeared. Were you answering David's question?
Yes, David Youngson's.
Okay.
About promos.
Yep. Okay. Do we supply bigmap with the same files we use to supply for other platforms? Yes, you're using the same data for the. That's one of the big benefits is you load data once, it populates all these different platforms within Brandwise. Are you saying the original order comes through bigmap, orders come through the rep group? Yeah, so Melanie, the question about the percentage. So any orders that originate in bigmap are subject to the 3% fee. But an order that's done, so that retailer comes in, brand new retailer, buys a line, goes to a sales rep at an agency, Brandwise agency, they work it, that's 3%. Then the retailer calls, right, but 3%. Then that retailer calls on that, or excuse me, the rep calls on that retailer 2 months later and says, hey, you ready for a reorder? And they work through Play, for instance. That's not subject to the 3%. Only orders that originate through bigmap are the ones that are subject to the 3%. So the rep can work that all they want, and they're not subject to that fee.
Let's see.
Yeah, so that's a good point David's bringing up. You want to answer that one, Ari?
Which one? Sorry.
Very much
I really think suppliers can offer the same incentives of fair offers if they want to. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, it was a statement on a question. Getting the suppliers can offer, if they want to offer parity of conditions. Salespeople have been asking, well, if they're getting free freight, if they're getting this, but keep in mind, there's a lot more money on the table in order to do this, right? So it can cost you less, and however it is that you look at it, whether there's more money on the table because they're better orders, or there's more money on the table simply because the cost is less. Either way, there's a lot more flexibility. Think about it for a new customer. Often suppliers will spiff a salesperson for opening a new account. They give them a certain percentage, right? We give you 5%, 10%, we give you $100, we give you $50, we give you a pat on the head, a taco, whatever it is. But in this case, you've got a difference between 28% and 3% in terms of what you're looking at in terms of a difference in cost, and it's going to be a better order, and it's going to be a larger order.
But that's really the key point between the differences, right? Because if I'm charging, if Brandwise said we'll charge 28% on the first order for a new customer, we'd be all over trying to do that for sure. And then we'd have room outside of the investment to say, well, we'll add free freight and things like that. So I think that point David brings up, that at the 3%, the brands, particularly for a new customer or whatever, have plenty of room for that. So that's a really, really.
And to use the traditional tools that we've been using for years to incentivize that.
Yep. All right, let's see, what else? Where do the agency reach sites? All right. Okay, so territory assignment question from Mary, who has left, but I'll answer it anyway. If you have two rep groups covering same region for different account types, how do you assign? So if you're a brand doing that, we account for that in the agency system by account type. So out of the gates, if you're a brand that has two different reps that cover the same retailer, two different reps cover the same retailer based on brand type. Well, that'll be something as we talk about the feature parity between what we have in the existing and what we'll have in 2.0. That'll be down the road on that.
That's on the road.
If it goes to an agency, then they'll have that set in their system already, and it will split it out that way.
All right. Well, if you have more questions, you can write to alowenstein@brandwise.com or write to Todd, we want to answer them, and we'll keep doing this. What's great also is this is not aspirational anymore. We've got a timeline, technology's there, and we're really excited. So have a great December. Hope you get your orders out, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Stay well. Thanks everybody very much. Talk to you soon.